two things. Number one, so since obviously we've been on a hiatus for 2 weeks, kind of feels like longer than 2 weeks, but
yes,
hiatus for 2.
Maybe
well,
like
it's,
3.
It's technically we've been on a hiatus for 3 weeks, but that's only in the sense that we've also technically been on a hiatus 1 week every single time we upload a new episode. So it will have been 3 weeks since our last episode, but that's 2 weeks more than it usually would be, ignoring the fact sometimes I don't upload it at the right time. Anyway, and since that time we've had 3, count them, 3 sets of football matches, or I don't know what the word is. What do you call football weekends?
Yes.
Anyway, and I wanted to talk to you about something. I noticed it, because you were like, when we were talking about the World Cup, you were like, oh, and when we go back to the league football, there's going to be so many VAR decisions. And I remember, like, literally, so the first match Crystal Palace played, I would almost not put it past you to just remember that, but I watched the highlights on Match of the Day. First match Crystal Palace played, and there was just a penalty or something like that, or a disallowed goal, that would have got through if it was VAR. And I remember thinking, oh, I need to bring that up to Luke. And he's like, hey Luke, you were talking about how much you hate the fact that it was VAR, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, like, now I've literally noticed it every single time. Every single time there's been a mistake. And I've taken to ironically shouting, VAR it, just at the TV, like, VAR it, guys.
This is great.
The second thing I wanted to talk to you about is more important. So as we know, there's a YouTuber called Entertain the Elk, who is just terrible, because of course he has he has this presumption that his entire thing is he does when X dies, or when X died, but what he does is he takes the first kind of bad episode and he's like, this is when it died, which is not a very clever thing. But anyway, I rewatched his This Is the Day Family Died one again, and the important thing is he said Family Guy, it got cancelled, then it came back, and maybe it was just bad because it got cancelled and it came back, like Arrested Development. And I thought that was interesting because you're always singing the praises of Arrested Development, but could it be that you would entertain the Elk lying to me in saying that it wasn't as good quality when it came back, Luke?
Or Arrested Development? Yeah, you are correct, yes.
Well, that's the two things I wanted to bring up, just because I was curious. So apart from that...
Okay, that's great.
Back up, chump, Biggie Smalls rips it quick and kicks it quick. You know how black niggas get. With the hoods, fatigues, with the boots, with trees. Whipping trees, making crazy G's. Hitting buckshots at niggas that open spots on the avenue. Take my loot and I'm bagging. Pimping hoes that drive Bobos and rodeos. Flash the roll, make a wet in they pantyhose. Damn, a nigga style is unorthodox, grip the clock. When I walk down the crowded block, just in case a nigga wanna act out, I just black out, blow the motherfucking back out. That's a real nigga for you.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, new movie review podcast. We look at films that come out relatively recently at the cinema and see if they still hold up upon a closer inspection. Second watch is what I usually say, I think. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Of course, we've had a 2-week hiatus, and still, in that 2-week hiatus, nothing has changed. I'm still Michael, and I'm still joined, as always, by my co-host, Luke. And this week, we are going to be reviewing Coming to America. And Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Coming to America?
Certainly, Michael. So, Coming to America. It's a 1988 American romantic comedy film directed by John Landis and based on a story originally created by Eddie Murphy, who also starred in the lead role. Film also stars Asensio Hall, James Earl Jones, Shari Headley, and John Amos. It was released on the 29th of June, 1988. And do you want to have a guess at the budget?
Oh, goodness, this is a difficult one. I'll just go for a completely random number. It's 30 million. No, 40 million.
You know what, Michael? You're just 1 million off. 39 million.
Yay!
Very good guess. Now, the box office.
Again, no preamble, just random number. Except for the preamble explaining I'm going to do a random number. 200 million.
Well, interestingly, before you said that it wasn't a big movie. It actually grossed 288 million, which for 1988 is quite a lot. I don't know what it would be nowadays, but certainly, yeah, it's pretty large for 1988. So yeah, there's
I don't know how much I stand by my it's not a big movie thing. I mean, basically what I meant is I hadn't heard of it because I hate films.
Yeah, and you're white.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of me being, possibly a combination of me being white and also not from the 1980s.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Because when I think about it, okay, like films from the 1980s, I know Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Ghostbusters. Well, actually, I could name quite a few films from the 1980s, so ignore that point.
Yeah.
But the point is that, despite that I could name a few, like, I doubt I could name every single film that made more than 250 million. Maybe I could, but let's assume I can't.
Yeah, okay. Star Wars movies, obviously. Movies from the 80s as well.
And Terminator 1. And Indiana Jones.
Yeah, so there you go. You can name plenty of movies from the 80s.
And E.T. And Blade Runner. Oh no. I can also name some weird films, like The Thing.
Yeah.
The weird 80s horror films. But anyway, what's more important, Luke, is, did you like this film?
I did, Michael.
I also liked this film. I thought it was just fun. Darn fun.
Darn fun. Yeah, that's a good explanation of the reason why I like this film. It's just a really fun, nice movie. I'll explain the plot quickly. Actually, do we do plot on nitpicks first? It's been so long.
See, I often thought what happened is we talked about what the plot was, then we did nitpicks, then we discussed, we analysed the plot.
Okay.
So it's kind of that's my thoughts, but...
Okay, I'll just give the quick summary of the plot. So, as mentioned before, Eddie Murphy plays Akeem Joffer, the crown prince of the fictional African nation of Zamunda, who comes to the United States in the hopes of finding a woman he can marry. And he indeed does find that woman, a Lisa McDowell, whose father owns a local fast food restaurant, and Akeem works for her father. Eventually, they fall in love, get rid of her obnoxious boyfriend, Daryl, and yeah, they all marry. Well, they don't all marry at the end.
They all marry. Everyone does.
Akeem and Lisa marry at the end of the movie, and happily ever after and all that. So yeah, just a romantic comedy / fairy tale kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Now, Luke, how many nitpicks did you have?
I have one.
So, again, I have 0. I really struggled, and I guess you probably, I mean, if you've only got 1, that's not many. So obviously, seeing as I have the fewest, I'll go first. Now it's your turn, Luke.
That was very funny, Michael.
I know.
Very funny.
Still got it.
Okay, yeah.
I'm like a regular Eddie Murphy.
Yes. So
without the homophobia.
What do you say?
Without the homophobia. I know the only thing I know about Eddie Murphy is a lot of people use the term problematic. They say Eddie Murphy was a very funny comedian for his time, but a lot of his stuff is very problematic today because it plays off the homophobia in the African American community.
Yes, I do love that word.
Do a film that discussed homophobia in the African American community. If only we could find a film that was about that and review it.
Yeah, like it would help if it was like nominated or even won an Oscar, because then we could definitely.
Then we would have extra calls to talk about it. Yeah. Problematic is a good word. A lot of people hate the term. I mean, I know it's obvious, but why? But loads of people hate the term problematic when it's like it's such a useful term. Something that I kind of try to do is I'll let you talk.
I was just going to say it's kind of like the word woke, as in like the word woke used to be like, oh, this guy's really thoughtful, he knows what's going on. Now it's just like been bastardized, and if you call someone woke, it's kind of like an insult or mocking them, basically. I
mean, the problem with problematic is that it's a really useful term to use because it's basically a way of saying something has problems. It's like such a useful term because I can't really think of a sort of synonym for it. Because it's not the same thing as bad. It's not the same thing as racist or bigoted or whatever else. Like you'd say, for example, the way that Han Solo's kind of rapey in the original Star Wars trilogy is problematic.
Yeah.
And there's no alternative word for that. You can't... Anyway, it's important we talk about that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And what was your nitpick?
Yeah, my nitpick. Yeah. So basically, it's the scene where Akeem is talking to Lisa and her sister, who I can't remember what her name is, and basically he's explaining to them that he's a student in New York, that's why he came to America, and so they ask him, oh, what university did you go to? And he says, the University of the United States. And obviously the joke is there is no University of the United States. He's saying that because he doesn't actually go to the university. But surely you would just say the University of New York.
Yeah, I was thinking that,
Yeah.
to be honest. That's,
And that obviously is a university. So, yeah.
Well,
Joke
to be honest,
didn't really work.
what I was thinking to myself was, he's going to say University of New York, and I was thinking, wait a minute, is the University of New York an actual university?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Because I'm not a genius, but here's a question. Is Columbia University in New York?
Yes, it is.
Because you would think it would be in the District of Columbia.
Well, it's not.
Yeah.
So, would British Columbia be in the District of Columbia, Michael? Just a
yeah.
small, section in Washington,
Yeah.
D.C., like a pub, you know?
It would be like the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that if you just had a British exclave in America. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
That would be wonderful, yeah.
Think of all the tension it would cause.
Probably not a lot, to be honest.
We can put it on our alternative history channel.
Oh, yeah. We've got one of them, haven't we? Yeah.
Alternative history channels are big nowadays, so... anyway.
Well, big for you, maybe, Michael.
Yeah.
Because you're a nerd.
To be honest, I find them... I just get tired of YouTube nowadays, though, because it's all so overproduced, man. I'm more into, like, the independent scene, dude. Anyway, it feels so weird, like, actually. we should never do a hiatus again, Luke, because we're completely out of the rhythm.
Yeah, we are, yeah.
So next we actually talk about the plot and evaluate it and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have any unique observations about the plot?
Not really. That's the thing, it's just a
Yeah, it's
normal
very
romantic comedy
effective.
/ fairy tale. Yeah, it's effective. Like you say, the prince wants to find love. You know, he's not happy, so he runs away. Well, he doesn't run away from home, but, you know, he goes away from home, finds this woman, unlike any other in his country, takes her back, marries her. It's just beautiful. And then obviously you got the fish out of water comedy aspect of this guy, who's, you know, never been to America in his life, trying to fit in with various people living in Queens. And yeah, it's just the standard
most of the
movie.
Most of the plotty aspects of the plot are like the humour. So I guess we're probably going to talk about the humour and possibly the romantic elements. So seeing as this film is pretty much a pure romantic comedy, where almost all of the plot focuses around the jokes and the relationship, there's not much you can say about the plot in itself. One thing, not really to do with the plot, but I just find interesting, is of course this was directed by John Landis, who directed the Blues Brothers, but perhaps the most famous thing he's produced is Red Letter Media meme, Max Landis.
Yep, Red Letter Medium meme. Is that what he is now, Max Landis?
Well, to be honest, he hasn't been on... Yeah, you know the accusations, don't you, Luke?
No, I don't.
Oh, well, let's just say, apparently his behaviour has been very problematic, and he was
That explains
caught up in
everything.
the whole... Yeah, he was caught up in the whole Harvey Weinstein thing, with a lot of people coming out and basically saying, yeah, he's a bit creepy, a bit blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he explains everything.
Yeah.
It explains why he's such a bad writer.
Okay, there's a bit of a difference between he's a bit creepy and he's Harvey Weinstein, so which one is it?
So I don't think he's actually sexually assaulted anyone, but I think it's kind of like... To be honest, I don't actually know that much about it, because I didn't care that much. All I know is that a lot of kind of woke film reviewers have... so Lindsay Ellis made a movie review of the film Bright, which was written by Max Landis, and one of her ongoing jokes throughout is that she repeatedly said that the film didn't have a screenwriter, which is apparently because a lot of people are refusing to acknowledge Max Landis because they're very upset about what he's been accused of. But having said all of that, I don't actually know what he's been accused of and what the basis is for the accusations, but, you know.
Wait, so Max
Whatever, I mean,
Landis
he's-
helped write Bright.
Yes.
That explains why it was so bad.
I know. It is a very useful thing to explain. The funny thing is that I don't think John Landis made very many bad films. So, would you say nepotism doesn't always guarantee good quality films? Would you say maybe we should hire people for reasons other than that they have parents in the industry.
I don't know, Michael. I mean, you look at like just all aspects of life, maybe even like the presidency of the United States, and you see how handing your business down to your son, and then him using that business to then become president, just works out for everybody. So maybe nepotism ain't that bad. I'm not sure.
Would you say it's very important for a society that the essential value of nepotism is enshrined through a 1,000-year-old institution whereby the powers of heads of state are passed from one person to their direct ancestor?
You know
Would
what?
you say that would be a very healthy thing for a modern liberal democracy to have?
I think the best modern liberal democracies have those systems in place.
Yeah. But speaking of which, actually, this film has an absolute monarchy, and it's never really, I know you wouldn't expect it, but it's never really addressed from a moral criticism standpoint.
Oh yeah, I guess
yeah,
so.
But it's I guess in that sense, you were like, oh, it's like a fairy tale, and obviously one of the things about fairy tales is a lot of people say that they are problematic. So Cinderella is treated like a working class peasant and then becomes a princess, while all of her subjects are probably still treated like working class peasants. So basically, Luke, just like a fairy tale, it fails to acknowledge the actual horrors of an absolute monarchy.
Well, I mean, okay, the Cinderella thing, stuff like that actually did happen. So, obviously, you have peasants and then you have rich kings. I don't think the word problematic is best.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think it's just the word problematic in my head. But also, actually, to be honest, this whole time I've been lying, because in some sense this film is kind of based on criticizing the idea of absolute monarchy, seeing as Prince Hakim's like, I don't like living like this and being made to feel better than everyone else, and I want to live like a common person. So actually, I'm completely lying, and my opinion should be disregarded.
Yeah, now you're getting it.
Pleasure.
So I just want to go through a couple of problems with the plot to this movie. So obviously at the start, and this isn't to do with race or it's not problematic problems, if you get what I mean. It's just structural problems. So at the start, when Hakim is saying to his assistant, whatever he's called, I'm going to get him up because I'm going to mention him as Semi. That's it. He's called Semi, played by Arsenio Hall.
So he's Semi, but you want to get him up.
Yeah.
Because he's not quite there yet. He's only Semi.
That's
great.
Up, Luke. That's great. Sure. Yeah. So Semi is basically, actually they could have done a joke with that, couldn't they? Well, we'll talk about that in the comedy section. So Semi is trying to basically. Oh no! Oh, sorry, something came up, Michael. You might have to cut this. My Skype recorder has stopped working.
So, Luke, you're actually in the middle of explaining problems with the plot, and you've probably lost your trail of thought, and we'll probably never get to hear it again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So, yes. One of the problems with the plot is, or it isn't explained, why Hakim thinks he needs to go to America to find a wife. Why not say Zamunda or stay in Zamunda?
Because there aren't poor people in Africa.
Okay, but I don't think he's seeking poverty. What he's seeking primarily is an educated woman. And do those not exist in Zamunda? And why do they only exist in America?
That's true.
I think it would be very helpful if there was a scene where he's explaining to his assistant why he wants to go to America, because he just says we need to go to America because that's where I will find my wife. And it's well, if you get out a book and say, look at all these great American women, I want one of them, and I don't know who he would look at in a book, but what about Eleanor Roosevelt? But I guess it might have to be someone black, what about Rosa Parks?
I was thinking of Rosa Parks. What about Martin Luther King's wife?
That's huge. I was going to say that.
What a great famous woman.
Martin Luther King's wife. Yep. Just Malcolm X's wife. Did he have a wife?
I think he must have, just because, I don't know, it seems like kind of thing he'd do. But, I don't know, Malcolm X, he seems like a very kind of cool loner guy, so, he seems like the kind of guy who would say you don't need no woman. Also seems like he might have been a bit of a sexist.
Yeah, the whole religion of Islam thing.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn them. Anyway, so is that your last criticism of the plot, which you hate?
Well, no, it's not, Michael. And I'm surprised you hadn't brought this
So
up
you hate
either.
them.
It's
Okay. Well, I probably thought it, but then ignored it.
well, it's the ending, and the ending is pretty bad in this movie.
You mean the reveal at the end? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. The
So
ending is really bad.
yeah, right. So obviously the king, played by James Earl Jones, changes his mind like on a dime after his wife says, "Well, sometimes some traditions can change," and then she says, "Well, you're the king, aren't you? You can change it." Yeah, so the ending kind of just feels like tacked on, like they got the main plot, done, and they're like, right, we just need one more scene when, Akeem turns around and he sees Lisa, and obviously it's a surprise, like, it's like, oh, it's Lisa, oh, happy ever after, but like, it's kind of like, well, can't there just be a scene where the king turns, the car around and visits Lisa and is like, hey, what I said before was just, a lot of garbage or rubbish. Do you still want to marry
Yes.
Akeem? And then she doesn't say yes. She just like thinks about it, and then you cut to the ending.
Yeah, I think you could make an argument that this film actually somewhat removes. I've already forgotten her name, but I should remember it. So it's not the film's fault I've forgotten her name. It's me not being able to remember people's names. But the love interest. What's her name, Luke?
What, Lisa?
Lisa. There we go.
I just said
Lisa.
it like twice in the last
I know,
minute.
but you know what? I mean, I'm so bad with names, especially these ethnic names. Lisa. Anyway, it kind of removes her agency in a way, because it's about like the last thing you see her doing is making a pretty definitive claim of, no, I'm not gonna marry you. And then the next scene, she's like, nah, I'm marrying you for some reason, and just a surprise, and it's like, and also, I guess we should say, it's kind of stupid that she marries him. Again, like, maybe it's kind of a take on the idea of a fairy tale, but, I mean, like, they should obviously end up being in a relationship at the end of it, but marrying someone who you've not known very long at all, and also, he's been like lying, obviously not in a bad way, but lying to you the entire time.
Yeah, this movie would be maybe better, certainly more certainly more progressive and certainly more woke if...
Yeah, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, if Akeem says, no, I am not going to marry you. Instead, we are going to travel the world because it is too early to tell. But
Luke, that's the terrible ending at the end of the remake of Beauty and the Beast. I assume you haven't seen it.
No, I haven't seen the remake of Beauty and the Beast.
Basically, they introduce out of nowhere this plot point where there's a book, and the book can be used to teleport to anywhere in the world.
This sounds like the movie Jumper.
Yes.
Starring Hayden Christensen.
And basically, at the end, it's like, the Beast is like, oh, we can go anywhere using that book. And it's supposed to make the film more woke, because it's like, because they were like, well, in the original one, she just kind of ends up cooped up in a castle. So now, because she's got this, magic book that can teleport people everywhere, we can travel the world together. It's just a bit dumb.
Yeah, it does sound a bit dumb. But yes, that's the thing. I don't know if you had that kind of ending in this movie, whether it would have made it better or worse. But you're right, by the way, about Lisa, her agency being removed. That was the phrase you used, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, she said no, quite firmly no, and then she just switches on a dime, says yes, and then Akeem says, like, so they're in the carriage, going out of the church at the end, and Akeem says, I would still, she says, were you correct? Oh, fuck. She says, I'll get it eventually. She says, so were you serious? You would give all this up for me? And Akeem's like, yes, I will do it now if you want. And she goes like, nah, like that. But it's kind of like... and
then it zooms in on her face and it says, that's all, folks.
Yeah. It's kind of like, well, wasn't one of the reasons why she was such a good character, or a character that Akeem wanted to fall in love with, that she wouldn't care? Surely, Michael, she should say, I don't mind. Like, instead of like, nah. Or maybe just people are just, like money and good stuff.
Yeah.
So, even the most wholesome person, if they, are offered to live like a queen, they're going to take it. Because it's just that great a life. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that they should have streamed this? I was going to say, would you say they should have shown this film instead of The Royal Wedding? Because when you think about it, basically, this is The Royal Wedding, but better. Because number one, she's even more black, which is obviously, more woke. And number two, she's not marrying him just because he's a prince. And as far as I know a lot of random posh people in the UK, and none of them seem to be marrying supermodels from America.
Wait, what? Say that last bit again.
I said, I know a lot of random posh people in the UK, and none of them are getting married to supermodels from America.
Yeah, I thought you said that. Okay. Fair enough, Michael. Fair enough.
So the point is, why does this bozo, like Prince William, what he should have done is he should have been like, I don't want to marry somebody who loves me just because I'm a prince, mother. Oh wait, sorry. I'm thinking of Prince William. I mean Prince Harry. I want to marry somebody who will love me for who I am. It's more appropriate for Prince Harry, though, because he married a mixed race. Is she black and white? I don't know. Meghan Markle from America. So it's kind of similar. And he goes, I'm going to go to America. To Queens. And then he goes there, and then he gets stabbed and robbed and dies.
That'd be great. That'd be a great sketch.
It's a bit like the sketch Gap Year, which it's spelled Gap Year, and it's this guy, and he's on the phone, and he's like, that reminds me of my Gap Year, where I went to this place in Africa, and I saw this woman, and she was just lying on the roadside, and she was impoverished, and it was so humanizing to realize that anybody could just have that kind of suffering. And then I just chundered everywhere. I just chundered. Me and the boys had been out on the lash the night before, and I just chundered. It's very entertaining. I'll send you a link to it.
That's a great accent, by the way.
Yes, I know. I think I'm pretty good at it. I think it's my time with Ben that's helped me perfect it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because he was like, yes. I remember when we were doing that quiz on how posh you were, and he genuinely said, "Do you not have a coat of arms?"
Did he actually say that?
Yeah, because basically one of the questions was, "Do you have a crest?" And it was like, "We have a family crest." I was like, "What?" And it was like, "Do you not?" The other one was an Aga, which is a kind of oven, and I've never heard of it before, but apparently Dylan has.
Of course he has.
Classic Dylan. He's so pop. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, the point was.
The point was that Lisa's
personality changes pretty rapidly at the end. Like, she's fine with getting married, and she's fine with all the wealth that Akeem has. Yeah, it's just...
Yeah, it's kind of silly, because it's like she dumped him after finding out he was a prince. So it's weird, because it's like, she likes him when he's not a prince, then she finds out he's a prince, then she dumps him, obviously because he lied to her and things like that. Well, actually, no, she dumps him because James Earl Jones is like, it is kind of annoying actually, because it's like a misunderstanding, which is just like a kind of annoying reason for conflict to happen, when conflict happens just because like of a misunderstanding between two characters.
I wouldn't say it's a misunderstanding, Michael. I don't think it's that bad.
Anyway, but
you could feasibly believe what the king's saying for you.
She breaks up with him after finding out he's a prince, and then she gets back together with him for some unforeseen reason, and literally marries him, just like spends the rest of her life with him, because women aren't allowed to get divorced in this backwards country.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then at the end she's like, and obviously, I'd never give up all this money. It's like, well, what's the point? Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't ruin the film, but it's probably it's the silliest stuff. I'd say it's kind of more silly than annoying. It didn't really like bother me. I just thought that's stupid.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the plot. It's not that interesting, but obviously, Michael, there is a reason why we reviewed this movie, or wanted to review this movie, and not just because it's been 30 years since it came out. Like I said, the plot itself isn't that interesting, but I think it's the stuff around this movie that makes it interesting. I think we got to start off by, this part of the podcast, we're going to be talking about race. And I think we need to start off with the fact that this movie portrays Africa in a way I don't think it had been portrayed before. So,
Great. I wanted to talk about this. The film that came into my mind watching this, and I think you'll probably agree with me here, is Black Panther.
Yeah, Black Panther. It was Black Panther before Black Panther. Zamunda and Wakanda, although not identical, both fictional African countries with wealth. So have you seen? So obviously this movie came out in '88, and I think I did see some articles when researching stuff about Coming to America about how this was like before Black Panther there was Coming to America, and so I was like, oh yeah. So I did. It's not just me, and obviously you pointed this out as well. There is a comparison between Black Panther and Coming to America. Yeah, there we go. Coming to America. It's and I hadn't seen a lot of movies pre 1998, and I don't know for certain if this movie portrayed Africa in like an original way, but I have to think because no other movie was mentioned in those articles, that was the case. Like this is the first like movie that, you know, it's like Africa isn't just some wasteland with like savages in it. Like this movie is very far from Zulu, starring Michael Caine, for instance.
I wonder when that film came out. 70s? Let's look that.
I think it was the 60s.
I feel like it's one of those films that looks older than it is. Oh no, you're right. Oh, I'm an idiot.
64.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting about that. That would, when that film came out, Britain, I'm pretty sure, controlled still quite a few parts of Africa.
Yeah, probably. We still controlled Hong Kong, I believe, as well. So that's something.
Yeah, we controlled Hong Kong until 97. That was the official end of the British Empire.
Hashtag official.
But yeah, we had oh wait, it's got a map of every single country when they won their independence. Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
So I could be, alright, so this one makes a lot of sense. Rhodesia, or Zimbabwe, gained its independence in 1980. Lesotho gained its independence in 1966. Namibia gained its independence in 1989. And then a lot of them, so there are a lot of ones that are kind of around, Gambia gained its independence in 1965.
You're right there, Trump.
And this one's quite interesting because, so Northern Rhodesia, which is modern day Botswana, and Malawi both gained their independence in 1964, so when Zulu came out, and then in the immediate run-up to Zulu, Nigeria, Cameroon, British Somaliland, Somalia, Kenya, Uganda, Zanzibar, Tanzania, and that country I can't remember the name of because it's called Beku. Okay, so basically a lot of these are written as no. See, basically a lot of these are written as no. See, it does. I don't think it starts with a B. I'm gonna actually look up a map of Africa because it's bothering me. So anyway, all of those countries gained their independence between 1960 and 1964. So obviously so basically, historical context of Zulu, Britain was losing a whole load of territories. Okay, no, I made a mistake. So I said a different country was Botswana, but I got the wrong way around. So the country I was thinking of just then was Botswana. The country I mistakenly identified as Botswana was actually Zambia. So there we go. That's corrected. The important thing is, Luke, speaking of the empire, this actually helps, because you were kind of talking about the way this film portrayed Africa in a unique way, and it's kind of a weird thing, because obviously there was a point when the negative portrayal of Africa became almost one of sympathy. So, and I'm guessing that a big part of it was films like Band-Aid, because in the 1960s, obviously, Africa in total was just viewed as a colony, you know, similar to India and every other place, you know, just a periphery of England's empire, Britain's empire. And then obviously after that was probably viewed as a warring part. And then I'm going to guess, I think I'd be right in saying, during the 1970s, it was probably viewed very much in a Cold War context with things like the communism in Mozambique, Angola. I think there was some communism in Somalia, Ethiopia. So basically there was all sorts of communism. happening. Communism happening everywhere in Africa during the 1970s. So I'm guessing it was viewed as in a kind of Cold War context, the same way Vietnam would have been viewed, and Chile and Venezuela and Cuba and all that stuff. Anyway, this is the important thing. I think in the 1980s, that was when the first ideas of Africa as sort of a sob story came to be spread. Because, I think people would have viewed Africa as more of just, like I say, similar to South America and lots of countries in Asia, where they're viewed as kind of less developed, but not impoverished. So, for example, Iran. You view Iran as less developed, but most people don't think of Iran as impoverished. And I imagine that's probably how people thought about a country like Ethiopia. When Ethiopia was going towards Somalia and Eritrea, and they were talking about spreading communism across the entire eastern part of Africa, I doubt people were going, oh, poor Ethiopians, oh, let's give them money. They were probably going, oh no, Ethiopia, they're going to overthrow our oil empires in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I know all of this because of my dissertation on Yemen, because Ethiopia got involved in Yemen. I know these things, Luke. But the important thing is, during the 1980s, it suddenly became Band-Aid. Do they know it's Christmas time at all?
There's also...
These people are starving. These people are... Look at how poor they are. Look at how sad it is.
Isn't there, like, comic relief or whatever? What's that thing on BBC? Like, once every year?
There's Red Nose Day, and I think that's the same thing as comic relief.
Okay. But yeah, and I believe that's...
I don't know if it's the same thing.
That helps people in Africa, I believe.
Yeah, I think there's like all sorts of...
Yeah, and I think that started in the 80s, I believe. So, you are correct. And here's the thing,
it's about founding a just world.
Yeah. So here's the thing with all that.
I was just saying, it's about founding a just world free from poverty.
Yeah.
Just to give the official mission statement.
So if you don't have a clue about anything to do with Africa, like the whole continent of Africa, and
Africa's a country?
Yeah. And there's 3 countries in Africa that say have a lot of poverty, a lot of issues, then you'll think, oh, all of Africa must be like this. Because,
Well, there are only 3 countries in Africa, Luke. There's the Muslim one, the poor black one, and...
the kind of white one, down at the bottom.
Yeah. There's the racist one that's racist against black people, but now it's racist against white people. Those are the 3 countries in Africa.
It's been a great thing that's happened over the last week, the racism going on in South Africa with the white farmers being killed.
It's been great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Nigel Farage saying Theresa May's embarrassed to stand up for white people. Just oh God. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So, back to Coming to America. Yeah, so you are correct in that. It would have been unusual, I think, back in the 80s, and maybe it would still be unusual up until the release of Black Panther, to have a movie set in Africa that showed, people who were wealthy and, well-fed and just so rich. So the comparisons to Black Panther, I think, are valid. Also, so I think this movie, it acts like it's not weird that there's wealthy royalty from Africa. It's not even mentioned by a white New Yorker, like I thought it would be. So I thought there'd be a scene where Semi and Akeem are saying, "We are from Africa and we are royalty," and they, a white person would be like, huh, "Yeah, right." Whatever.
Yeah.
But you're from the ghetto, or maybe not something like that, or not say you're from the ghetto, but make that kind of assumption. But there wasn't any scene like that, which I'll get onto later. But yeah, actually, you know what? When the assistant Semi is getting $1 million transferred to them, and there's a white lady behind the desk who is like, "Oh yeah, sure, $1 million, whatever." She could have said something or alluded to something about his race, but she didn't. I was kind of expecting something like that to happen in the movie, but it didn't happen.
Well, the one thing that did happen that's similar, and I don't know if you wanted to talk about this or we're planning on talking about this later, but Daryl at the basketball game says some kind of disparaging stuff about Africa, which is interesting. He's like, he says things like, what do you do there? What's your favorite sport in Africa? Just banging a drum? You chase the antelope?
Chase the monkeys, I think it was.
Oh yeah, chase the monkey. Which obviously, that was close to the idea of saying, well, Africa's just a poor, horrible place.
Yeah,
Well, obviously that was coming from a black character, so that's interesting. Some might say
it is kind of interesting. I'll get onto that later, actually, Michael, because I've got some stuff to say about that. But firstly, I just want to talk about the reviews for this movie and how it contrasts to how a lot of people feel when watching this movie, particularly like black people. So, I don't know if you've seen the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie. I believe it's like 47%.
No, Metacritic is 47%. Rotten Tomatoes is 67%, which isn't great, but yeah, Metacritic's 47%.
Okay, that makes sense. So 47 for Metacritic and 67 for Rotten Tomatoes. So it's fresh, but not that fresh. So I wanted to read you a review that I saw on Wikipedia. So this is from Washington Post staff writer Hal Hinson. In making Coming to America, Murphy seems to have set his sights on the lowest prize imaginable. And he aspires to blandness. That's what he said. Which is very interesting that a lot of white critics did not seem to like this movie. Obviously, it's got 67% on Rotten Tomatoes, but like you see that Metacritic score, like it's not that well received. But I just think it's funny that this movie, I think it's fair to say, is kind of beloved by African Americans and also black people in other countries. Now, I remember Lewis Hamilton, who obviously I'm a fan of, Formula One driver, saying that Coming to America was one of his favourite movies. And I think this is because it would work the exact same, this movie, if it featured white characters. You could have the same script, just maybe change the name of the characters and just have all of them white, and it would still work.
Have be Prince Harry?
Yeah, have him be Prince Harry. Like, you don't need to actually change anything in the script. So I guess it's not a black film, and that's why it's liked by African Americans. It's just a normal film with black characters, and Hollywood famously isn't that good when it comes to representation on that particular end. And if it is a black film, then like race has to be involved. Like 12 Years a Slave, or what's the one with Quentin Tarantino and Jamie Foxx?
Django Unchained.
Django Unchained. Yeah, those are the kind of movies that feature like black people prominently, like films that are openly about race and like have a message. Like that's the thing. The lady behind the desk would have mentioned race. Or if she had mentioned race, then the movie would have been like promoting a message like black people can be royal too, and they can be kings too, and then it would, I think, become more of a black film. But Akeem, Akeem, he obviously picks Lisa to be his wife, or wants Lisa to be his wife, but he isn't like my wife, or whoever this lady is going to be. She must be black. He isn't like that. She just is black. It's just a normal romantic comedy that happens to have a load of black characters, which I guess in 1988 was crazy. It just shows how big Eddie Murphy was in Hollywood for that to get made. So yeah, I don't know what you think about that, like whether it's a black film or not.
Well, now I'm actually a bit worried. So I remember us talking about Africa and like the way it's presenting Africa as just like a normal place with developed parts and things like that. I'm not sure if we changed the subject. That's the only reason why I'm a bit.
I was just talking about how the film isn't really a black film, even though it's got a load of black characters in it. And
I agree. It could easily be.
Yeah. So I basically concluded by saying, and I think you cut out for this bit. It's just a normal romantic comedy that happens to have a load of black characters, and this is my point, which in 1988 obviously was crazy. It just shows how big Eddie Murphy was in Hollywood.
Yeah, he was a big guy.
Yeah, he was a big guy.
Although actually, so obviously I know who Eddie Murphy is, but what were his? Do you know any of his big roles before 1988? Because I might just be being stupid here, but I think of like, to be honest, I actually don't know that many Eddie Murphy roles. I know.
Well, he was in SNL. So.
Oh, okay, I knew that. So yeah, makes sense.
He was also in Trading Places, which.
Oh yeah, that was also.
Yeah, it was also directed by John Landis. Yes. So yeah, he had a kind of a successful career, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Well done, him. Yeah, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. Have you
and then he
seen?
was in Shrek.
Yeah. Have you seen a Dave Chappelle show with him and Charlie Murphy?
No, I've only seen the one. I think I've literally only seen one Dave Chappelle sketch, and it's the name of the sketch. I couldn't really get what it was saying.
Okay. What sketch is it?
So technically speaking, this is okay because it's the Nigar family.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny, some might say. And that's and I don't know why that's the only one I've seen. But I think it's funny. But yeah, I haven't seen any of his other stuff.
You did well saying or really pronouncing the R part of the.
Well, see, it's kind of weird because on the one hand, the thing that everyone says is that if you say it with a hard R, it's worse than if you say it with a ga at the end. But in this case, it's different because you're saying it with a hard R, but you're saying it R, not because I think that's how it's spelled.
Yeah, pretty sure.
In the context there. I'm gonna look this up.
Well, anyway, basically, Eddie Murphy stars in many of the skits that Dave Chappelle does with his brother Charlie Murphy, and it's called like Real Hollywood Stories or something, and it's like about how all the shenanigans that Eddie Murphy and Charlie Murphy got up to back in the day.
Charlie Murphy's dead.
Yeah, he is dead, unfortunately. I don't know how he died, but he is dead. Prince. Yeah, there was a sketch with him and Prince, which was quite famous.
Prince is dead.
Prince is also dead. Yeah, it's like around the time Prince died, I remember seeing that sketch a lot. Because it's better than any of his music. But yeah, that was quite funny.
You don't have to be rich to be my girl.
So,
do you not like that song, Luke?
I wouldn't say I'm a fan of Prince.
All I need is your extra time and your kiss. That's the only song I know by Prince. But
Gay blouses.
Yeah, but the real question is, where do we go from here?
The real answer is, I'm going to give you a quote, Michael.
Is it not?
What?
Okay. You've already given me one quote, so I'm just wondering if you're about to repeat yourself. I feel like I trust your memory, so I'm going to assume that you're not going to give me the same quote.
It's a quote from John Landis, the director.
Oh, okay, yeah. Give me this one.
So,
is it we have to get Eddie Murphy working because he's a funnier character he's had?
Here's the thing. It goes to my point of like it's a black film, but it's not really a black film. So this is his quote. Like the thing with Coming to America was it's silly. It's a fairy tale. When Eddie pitched me the idea, it wasn't much of an idea. I realized this is going to be a black movie. I don't think anyone understands that there will be a couple of white people in it, but essentially it's an African American movie. But the colour had nothing to do with the plot. The plot was purely this love story, fairy tale, and I realized this is an opportunity to do something really important that nobody will notice. It was the first big Hollywood movie where the character's skin was not part of the plot. Eddie plays the black guy in Beverly Hills Cop. He plays the black guy in Trading Places. Here, he just plays the guy. It was so successful. No one ever refers to that as an African-American movie, ever. Yet it has 3 speaking parts for white people. Every other speaking role is an African-American. Yeah, it's just kind of crazy how...
Yeah, that is, yeah. Although, what about the hit Night of the Living Dead?
I mean, did that have a lot of African-Americans in it?
It had, no, but the main character was an African-American. And do you know when Night of the Living Dead was released?
1964.
Oh, you know what? You've been annoying by, I think, over. I'm going to check. I think it's 1966. Oh, no, even more wrong. 1968. But still, I mean, it had a black main character in it. I mean, the main character.
Progress from Zulu.
So, Progress. Yes.
So, yeah, that's the thing. Like, it was kind of crazy that it's kind of gone unnoticed. Like, nobody thinks of, like, when talking about black movies and black representation, like, nobody brings up Coming to America, really. Or I haven't seen people bring it up a lot. But, yeah, for 1988, it really was, like, a one of a kind.
Yeah. I always focus on the Ralph Bakshi film Coonskin.
Okay. Is that the one you showed me?
See, I showed you Fritz the Cat.
Oh, that was it, Fritz the Cat.
I think I might have shown you the beginning of Coonskin, but Coonskin's even weirder than Fritz the Cat.
Yeah, it sounds weird, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, who can even finish a Ralph Bakshi film?
to sum all this thing up, Michael, when talking about how it's loved by African Americans, but how white critics don't like it because it's bland or unoriginal, maybe it's a good thing that it's unoriginal. Because a true sign of equality is when movies are being made for black people that are unoriginal.
Yeah, imagine like Adam Sandler's Grown Ups, but it's like all black people except for one white guy. That's when we've reached true equality.
Yeah, exactly. Not every movie featuring black people needs to be like 12 Years a Slave or Moonlight. You know, we can have more Coming to Americas, more just 6 out of 10 movies which are kind of fun. So yeah, I did want to, before we move on to the comedy, just talk about the negative portrayal of Africa in this movie. Because because this I think it's quite interesting actually, and I think this is the major difference between this movie and Black Panther. Basically, the movie kind of says like Africa, or Zamunda more specifically, it's like a place of feudal hierarchy, no feminism, and arranged marriages. There's elephants running about and everything like that. And it's kind of, although it does portray Africa in a positive light, like, oh look, it's wealthy, and I'm sure Lisa and Akeem will live happily ever after in Africa. It's still kind of stereotypes Africa a bit. So, and I wanted to bring up this story, Michael, of an NBA player called Joel Embiid, who plays for the Philadelphia 76ers. He is from Cameroon, and when he got to America, I think it was around in 2013, from Cameroon, he found out that people in America, including other African Americans, genuinely thought like he had to like chase lions in Africa and stuff, and that was how he became a man, by like fighting a lion and stuff like that. Like people didn't, even though they were his teammates or people he went to college with were like African Americans, obviously half of that is Africa where he comes from, Joel Embiid, they still didn't have a real clue about Africa. About like they genuinely thought like it's just a place where lions and roam free, and you have to fight them, and that is the difference, I guess, between this movie and Black Panther. Like this movie kind of perpetuates the split between African Americans and Africa, and you see Black Panther. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen it, and Black Panther tries to like correct that. Like there isn't a difference between African Americans and Africa. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. One thought in that regard, I think, is that, are you familiar with, of course, Nollywood?
Yes, Nigerian Hollywood.
So, apparently that produces more films, I think they measure it in reels of film, but more reels of film a year than Hollywood or Hollywood. And obviously, I guess one thing, because the thing about Black Panther is that it is good, but the only criticism I think you can make of it is that it still makes Africa look alien, and arguably you could say that's a good thing, because it's like, well, it's good for a country not to look westernized, and I think I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
But I also think there's kind of an argument that a good move towards equality and kind of representation of Africa would be, like for example, Friends in Africa. Like if someone just made if out of Nigeria there came Friends, and it was about these wealthy Africans, and they have an apartment in Lagos, and they go to the coffee shop, and it's like, it's not like, oh look, it's an African aesthetic or anything. It just looks completely boring like the rest of the Western world. And I think that could arguably be the next step. The next step is just being like, oh, it's a film set in Africa, and it looks just like a film set in New York, or a film set in London.
Well, that's...
Okay, with all these bloody foreigners in London, it bloody would look like London, wouldn't it? That sounds convincing.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's Africa, certainly, they have to strike a balance between becoming too westernized and just losing their like heritage and culture. Like, I think that's what Black Panther is kind of getting at. But yeah, we're a bit off Coming to America here, I feel.
We're a bit off, but we always like to make everything all about an opportunity to just show how woke we are with our sophisticated opinions on these matters. Anyway, and now we move on to the comedy aspect. I wanted to say, just like right off the bat with the comedy, it kind of took me a while to really find this film funny, and I don't know why. Like, I was thinking to myself, I'm not finding this very funny, and I remember thinking that to myself. It wouldn't have been that far in, probably like 15, 20 minutes, so, you know, and then obviously I did find it funny eventually. I don't know if that was just because, well, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't in a laughing mood, maybe I had to get into gear, but what did you think, Luke? Is this going to be a classic you didn't find it very funny?
Well, that's the thing, I don't think there was that many jokes. Like, it was
Typical Luke hates a comedy.
Like, you know, there was a lot of fish out of water stuff, which is obviously, you know, just funny, I guess, but, like, I think this movie was really more about romance than comedy.
Yeah.
Like, comedy was kind of like the side thing. It was
It was, yeah, I was going to say, it's one of those films where it's kind of just like, there's no, I mean, there are some, but there aren't that many jokes in themselves, but it's more like, the situation is funny. A situational comedy, if you will. Like, the idea of it kind of reminds me of Kindergarten Cop, you know? Like, it's not, there's nothing clever. There's nothing you're like, oh, that's a funny, clever joke. But you're just kind of laughing at the whole situation. Yeah, the
premise is funny. It's like, we put this rich African prince in the middle of Queens, you know, the comedy will write itself, basically. If they don't have to really put that much effort into the jokes. Like, there was the one where Akeem is saying, or talking to the owner of the McDowells, who obviously is called McDowell, I can't remember his first name, but he was talking to him about the NFL game between the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers. And it's just like, it was such a ripping victory and all that stuff. And obviously, it's like, he's trying to fit in, you know, it's an easy joke to write, but yeah. There was kind of a lot of...
Yeah, sometimes the easy jokes are the best
kind
jokes.
of a lot of inoffensive, just, you know, like, kind of comedy. You know, when you go,
Yeah, actually, I did want to talk about this, okay. Because one of the things I was thinking when I was watching this film, and I was like, this seems like it should be like a kind of fun family film. But one of the things I noticed when I was thinking that is there's kind of a lot of sexual stuff. There's a lot of adult stuff, so there's the line... The royal penis is clean, your highness. I remember noticing that. And also, I feel like... Okay, I might be wrong about this. Does anybody drop the N-word in this?
No.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, the important thing is that I think there was at least a swear word, and I'm actually struggling to remember things off the top of my head, but I remember thinking to myself, like, this is, like I say, a fun family comedy where it'd be like, oh yeah, you can watch it with your family, and as long as there weren't any racist old people there, everyone would have a good time. But I do remember thinking to myself, and I'm drawing a bit of a blank on like specific moments, but there was like quite a lot of stuff in there. I was thinking to myself, oh, but that would affect. You know, actually, I'm gonna do this. Okay, Luke, you say something, and I'm gonna look up the parental advisory for this film.
Yeah, well,
and you're gonna watch me.
Well, you are right, by the way, Michael, in that there was a bit of, well, obviously right at the start there's like nudity, which I was surprised at.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it was like,
there was nudity.
And obviously you have these girls in Queens wearing like quite revealing clothing as well while they're up on stage. It was like, right, that's the thing, like the nudity doesn't really fit with the film. Like it's just, it should be a fun family film, but then you got like the nudity. I don't think the sex jokes are that bad because I think, like children.
Now here's some fun facts. This is the ratings in various places. In Australia, it was rated M, or mature. I wonder if these are actually ages, because in the United Kingdom it was rated a 15, certificate 15.
Yes.
In the United States it was rated an R, so the Anglosphere is an R, a 15, a mature, and it has Canada is AA. I don't know what AA means. I don't know what I punched it was simple systems, but
Canadians are weird.
It's got Argentina 13, Norway 11, Peru 14, West Germany 12, and Netherlands 6. So I don't know if that, like, I would intuitively think, oh yeah, you're 6 years old, you can watch this, but that's just so typical of the Netherlands.
Or is it typical of the Anglosphere for being so conservative and pearl clutching?
This is interesting. This is the parental advisory. There's a scene where the prince is in a bathtub with 2 women who have exposed breasts. Nudity is shown for only about 2 seconds. Violence and gore. There is an armed robbery involving a shotgun. Profanity. About 20 F words and S words is used many times throughout the movie. And alcohol, drugs, and smoking. Several people drink champagne at a party. Nobody appears drunk. A landlord smokes cigars. But yeah, I mean, it's the profanity in particular.
Yes,
which,
the Samuel L.
and
Jackson
also the
scene, yes.
exposed boobs, which obviously make it like, oh man, you know, I want to sit my kids down in front of this and be like, hey, you know, here's a funny little film about, you know, a guy who goes to, like, it's kind of like a cute film. Like you say, it's kind of like, so obviously it's like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And you think, well, you know, show it to a little girl, and she'll be like, oh, that's cute, you know. Especially like obviously, I mean, again, obviously we don't see race here, but especially a black little girl who gets an actual sense of representation.
Yeah, she
from
could be
watching something like
empowered.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously, yeah. But then it's going to be like, sup, motherfucker. And obviously, we're not prudes, and obviously
Speak
it's
for
just words,
yourself.
guys. It's just words. Why do you care about words? But you know, swear words are swear words for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm a bit surprised that they would have so many in such a fun family film.
I forgot about the Samuel L. Jackson scene. He
Yeah.
just says, what does he say? Like, who the hell is this motherfucker? Or something like that.
Oops, sorry, I
And
dropped something.
alright, great stuff. Yeah, and so it's basically like, that right there, where he robs McDowell's, it's kind of weird. Like, that part in the movie is just kind of like,
It is a bit out of nowhere.
yeah, it's a bit out of nowhere. They've just gone to see a basketball game, and you know they had a good time. And then all of a sudden, like, you got this guy swearing and holding this fast food restaurant. Yeah. So you know, I don't know if Samuel L. Jackson appeared in much stuff before then.
I actually looked up, and he appeared in some stuff, but not. In fact, I think he appeared in several John Landis things before then. Oh, I could be lying. I might actually be lying, because I looked at the John Landis IMDb page and the Samuel L. Jackson IMDb page, and I might just be misremembering it and thinking, and like, oh yeah, actually, you know what? He's appeared in all of the John Landis films, funnily enough.
Yeah.
And John Landis directed every film that Samuel L. Jackson's been in.
What a
But
coincidence.
yeah, I think he's been in not much, because
Yeah.
I was curious.
He found his niche quite early, Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well done.
Also, I just want to talk about the McDonald's thing. So it's kind of interesting. It doesn't really have anything to do with the plot, you know, like kind of a nice side story that's a joke. But they don't really do much with it. Like, you have the dad obviously looking at the McDonald's like handbook or whatever. That's the only real joke though about how he's just ripping off McDonald's. I don't think there's really anything else.
McDowell's.
Yeah.
Classic.
I was expecting something to happen with it, but, you know, nothing in the end.
I expected that Samuel L. Jackson would secretly be working for McDonald's.
Oh, that would be a good twist.
Fan theory. Make a fan theory about it, Luke.
Yeah, I'm going to do that about a 30-year-old movie. So, expecting you to say something after that.
Sorry. Anyway, anything else to say about the humour?
Nah, I think we covered it pretty sensibly. Yeah, pretty well.
Good job.
Yeah.
I have no idea
Good
how
job.
long this is going to be, because we've recorded over like a session of 3 recordings.
Yeah, this isn't going to be our best, but, you know,
No,
we're,
but, you
we're
know,
rusty, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
characters now, Michael.
Yeah. My dad's talking really loud downstairs. Can you just hear a deep, bassy voice coming from downstairs going...
No, I can't.
That's all I can hear.
I can't actually.
Listen carefully. Wait. Okay, now he's stopped. Typical. Anyway, sorry, what were we talking about?
We're going to talk about the characters now, Michael.
Oh, the characters, yeah.
So-
Quirky characters.
Eddie Murphy as Prince Akeem Jotha, the Prince of Zamunda. Eddie Murphy is also Randy Watson, a soul singer with the fictional band Sexual Chocolate. Eddie Murphy also plays Saul, the Jewish barbershop customer, as well as Clarence, the owner of the barbershop. So, I was shocked that he played the old Jewish guy.
That's racist. Right they.
Because, like, it was a pretty good accent, actually. It just shows how talented he was.
Yeah, he played all his family in The Nutty Professor, I remember that.
Did he?
Yeah, he played... probably the little kid.
Uh,
But I think he played all the women and the old people.
just like Tyler Perry.
He also played all of the family in the Jerry Lewis version of The Nutty Professor.
Oh, fair enough.
That's not actually true.
Okay.
I feel like you actually do not know who Jerry Lewis is, and therefore you don't find it as funny as it was.
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
That's a shame. Jerry Lewis... okay, all I'll tell you about Jerry Lewis is that Professor Frink is modelled after Jerry Lewis.
Okay.
So you can imagine how.
I get it.
Anyway,
Yeah, so we'll talk about Prince Akeem Joffer. Lovely guy. Wants to explore the world.
explore the galaxy.
Explore the galaxy. Yeah, I don't know, like, just the perfect character, the perfect person. Very virtuous. Yeah, that's basically it. Next up, Arsenio Hall as Semi, Akeem's friend, Reverend Brown, Morris the barber, and also an unattractive clubgoer. Right, this scene really confused me, and this do clear it up. Like, remember when Akeem and Semi are in the club?
Yeah.
And Arsenio Hall obviously is sitting next to Eddie Murphy and is trying to be a woman. And I was like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, why is he a woman? Like, why has he changed outfits? And then it cuts back to like Semi, and I was like, oh, this is a different character. Okay, now that makes more sense. But yeah, it was just very weird. I was confused for a couple of seconds.
Isn't it odd, man? Can we still point out how ironic that is? Because Eddie Murphy, famously,
very famously, picked up a transgender or
prostitute.
Yeah, prostitute on the side of the road. Said he was giving her a lift home, or something like that. Yeah, it was very funny.
Classic Eddie Murphy.
Yeah. Next up, there's James Earl Jones as King Jaffe Joffer, Akeem's father, and King of Zamunda. So
no, sorry, you know what? I was for some reason I thought I picked up on it towards the end of you saying the whole thing, but obviously I guess you worked out that I accidentally made a James Earl Jones joke for the wrong person, and that was my fault, and I regret that. But I'll make a James Earl Jones now. James Earl Jones. Now, he should have been called King Mufasa.
Thanks for that, Michael.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Cool. It's got a pretty loud vibration there.
Yeah. So unprofessional, Michael. So he's getting typecast here around the late 80s, early 90s. James Earl Jones as African kings, animals and humans at the same time. Doesn't matter. He just has to play an African king. So yeah, like we've talked about how he kind of switches on a dime. Does the King of Zamunda? One second he's like, oh no, he can't marry Lisa. And then all of a sudden, no, he can. He can. It's fine. Tradition can change. A much needed scene was missed. Next up, we got John Amos as Cleo McDowell, Akeem's employer and Lisa's father. So this guy, when I first saw him, I thought he was OJ. I don't know if you know about OJ Simpson, his acting career.
Well, I don't think I know much about his acting career. No.
Yeah, he appeared in a lot of movies in the 80s, like Naked Gun. I don't know. He appeared in some more as well. But basically, obviously, the trial happened in 94. This movie came out in 88, so I was thinking, oh my god, this is OJ, because he would still be acting. I was like, oh wow, this is not going to age well. But then I got a second look, and I realised, oh, it's not OJ. He looks much older than OJ would be at that age. And
yeah,
it's actually,
he looks similar to OJ though, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually John Amos as Cleo McDowell. Thing is with this guy, Cleo McDowell, he's like, he doesn't want Lisa to marry or be with Akeem because he's poor, and he wants her to be with Daryl because he's rich. But then, like, it turns out Akeem is rich.
I feel like that's probably a commentary on, like, dads. I mean, dads in general.
Yeah, but, like, he doesn't learn his lesson. Like, he's like, oh, this is shit. I actually know it's really good. Like, he wants his daughter, he doesn't obviously care about his daughter's happiness, as much as he should do, so therefore, surely he should, like, maybe, actually, in the end he kind of does. So in the end he sticks up for his daughter, but before that wasn't the case. But yeah, I just think it's kind of funny how all of a sudden he's like, oh, this character, he doesn't value the right things, he's going to learn a lesson. But in the end, actually, he gets luckier than he ever could do, like the fact his daughter marries a prince. So yeah, good things happen to bad people, Yeah. Yeah. I guess he's not a bad person, but, I just found that kind of weird. Next up, we got Madge Sinclair as Queen. Fuck, I'm not going to say that name. Akeem's mother and the Queen of Zamunda.
She's nice.
She's
I
progressive.
guess she's kind of like a classic mother. She's just like
Yeah.
looking out for her kids.
Yeah, classic mother. Cares about love, and the king's got a cold heart, but it's warmed by the queen. That typical cliche.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. Next up, we got Shari Headley as Lisa McDowell, Cleo's oldest daughter and Akeem's love interest. So
we've already discussed how she kind of changes on a dime
Yes.
without even seeing why. And I mean, it's kind of weird 'cause obviously at first she's with this guy who's really rich, but then obviously she's eventually falls in love with someone who isn't really rich, so I guess that's fine. But yeah, I mean, I think she's a pretty good character, in that like she's not just nothing. She has got a bit of a character. So, what do you think, Luke?
Oh, yeah. She's got a bit of a character. I mean, that's, I guess, what Akeem wanted. Like, someone who's got a bit of a character. Like,
Yeah.
so I guess it makes sense that she's written to have some personality and isn't just, a mindless love interest. But yeah, so that's Lisa McDowell. Pretty decent overall. We've got Paul Bates as Oa, a royal servant. I mean, is that the really fat guy? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah, we're not going to spend any time
I
on
think
that.
we're done.
Yeah. Now we've got one more. Eric LaSalle as Daryl Jenkins,
Daryl.
Lisa's boyfriend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who she eventually
he's-
breaks up with.
I guess they had to make him like pretty heartless because she basically has to cheat on him pretty much.
Yeah.
And then just like he gets thrown out the way. Also, it's kind of weird actually how they have the bit where it's like the girl's like, oh yeah, you need to like. I only just thought about this. Like, it has the scene after he kind of gets dumped, even though he gets dumped by her dad. Basically, he goes to one of Lisa's friends' house, I guess, and she basically like puts the moves on him, and that's the last time you see
I
him.
know that's her sister.
Okay, I didn't know if it was her sister.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. How? No, I don't think it can be her sister because wasn't her sister there when? Because she's the one who says that the servant, I've already forgotten his name, isn't the prince. And she's like, no, I'm in love with the princess. Am I? You know what, Luke? I
Yeah,
don't even know.
it's the
important
same.
thing is we know-
It's the same character, but then she goes up to her room.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, what matters is that you never see Daryl again after that, even though, I don't know, it just seemed a bit weird that he was being in that scene and then nothing really happened from that scene. But to be honest, Daryl's going to be alright because he's rich, so you can't really feel too sorry for Daryl.
Nah.
He's going to be fine.
Yeah, and he got a sister, which, those two seem good for each other. So it's all okay. It's all okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And
And
more importantly, Luke, the transgender person who Eddie Murphy banged, she won. She was Miss American Samoa in 1993. But worse, quite sadly, she actually died at the age of 21 in 1998. So,
why did she die?
well, apparently...
Did Eddie Murphy silence her?
No, it's kind of weird actually. Apparently she got locked out of her apartment and then used her robe as a rope to swing from the roof to an open window. Okay, this is confusing. I'm going to have to read this out as it is because it's really confusing. Okay, I can't be bothered to read her name because her name's a bit confusing. She was found... Okay.
This is great.
Clad only in lingerie, Shalimar was believed to have been locked out of her apartment building and tried to use her robe as a rope to swing from the roof to an open window. However, she fell 5 floors and suffered severe head trauma and other fractures which resulted in her death. Here's my question. How was she locked out of her apartment but also on a roof?
Yeah, it's quite confusing.
Sounds suspicious, Luke. See, okay, all I'm thinking of is, do you know that episode of Friends when Ross and Joey get locked onto a roof and then they're stuck up there?
Well, you know what,
and
Michael?
hilarious shenanigans ensue.
I don't watch Friends because it's problematic.
And you know what, I don't watch Friends either, but I have seen that one episode.
Yeah, just the one.
I thought, this is fine. But actually, no, I saw another episode with Scott, and it was such a weird experience because honestly, it felt like it lasted for like an hour, and it was only a 20-minute episode. And I was like, is this like a double episode or something? And Scott was like, no, it's a normal episode. It honestly was the longest thing I've ever seen. The plot was that Ross was going to a paleontology convention to talk about paleontology. Meanwhile, Monica was playing Chandler at table tennis, and she always gets really competitive when she plays table tennis. And that was the plot of the episode, and it felt like it lasted an hour. Like they were playing table tennis for so long.
Sounds like such a shit Friends episode.
Yeah, anyway, next.
Next that's it. We're done with the characters.
What are we doing now?
Done with the characters. Done with the comedy.
I just realized I haven't actually loaded up my thing that I want to look at for when I rate it, so I'll load that up. So yeah, have we got anything else apart from wrapping up now?
Nah. I think we should wrap up. So I'll go first. Coming to America, obviously 30 years ago. So I'm not sure how we can judge it compared to contemporary films, but I think it's pretty decent. It's kind of fun. It's not that interesting, but as we've talked about, the reasons just that it exists at all, like it's not a black movie, but just a movie featuring a load of black characters in 1998, portraying Africa in the way it does, kind of groundbreaking. Obviously, there's the comparisons to Black Panther. So yeah, all that stuff's interesting to look at. But yeah, as a thing, we talked about before about how this movie should be like a family-friendly movie, but there's swearing, which I don't mind that much, but also nudity, which I guess is a bit worse than swearing. So you can't really, gather around, the family and watch it because of those reasons. But if it weren't for those things, I think it would be like a very, family-friendly movie. Quite fun, nice story. It's just it's a good time. You can't go wrong watching it for like an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm gonna give it, I think, Michael, 6.5 out of 10.
I also think this film was good. I agree with you in that it felt like it was like a fun family movie, and obviously there was some weird stuff in it that made it not so family-y. One thing I did want to say is that there was a PG edit in Australia, which seemed to be when I was looking through the ratings and stuff. So there's a PG edit in Australia. So if you want to show this to your kids and you care, then PG edit it, or practice your own editing. Why not just get it onto a computer and load up the old Sony Vegas and edit it yourself? Why not just do that? Why not edit like a kind of concerned looking face on the woman's boobs? That will teach your kids. And as for the rating, so I think this is the weird thing about this film, Luke. I think that I could place this film easily anywhere between number 12 and number 18. Meaning I could place it above either Thor Ragnarok or Mission Impossible, and I'm not sure which one it should go above. So I think I'm probably going to put it above Mission Impossible, which puts it below Ocean's 11. I think Ocean's 11 had some the same fun energy, but it also had kind of more stuff going on. And this film, obviously, there's a lot of good things to be said for it. The race element, and obviously the way that it kind of actually brought in the idea of, hey, let's make a film about race that just shows, black people as normal people, which is progressive and good.
Very woke.
But apart from that, it's also just a generally entertaining film. Let's just say it wasn't. Was the last film we reviewed Ghostbusters, or have we reviewed a film since then?
No, we reviewed Goal.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, we reviewed Ghostbusters recently, of course, another film that didn't have an all-black cast, but it had a quite female cast, and that was gimmicky and terrible. This film, unless you're super racist, you're not gonna walk away from this film complaining about darn SJWs. So that's great. I think we want those people to be happy most of all, the type of people who would complain about SJWs. So yeah, that's my review.
Okay, that's good. So that's it, coming to America. Next week we will be doing Predator, because of the release of the new Predator movie, which I think that Predator movie came out in 1987. So we're doing a lot of like throwbacks around this time, because we're also going to be doing Grease and like Sleepless in Seattle.
I can't remember the films we're going to be doing. I'm going to have a look. We're going to be doing such classics as... so we've missed off, Red Sparrow and 8 Mile. Who cares about that? Predator.
You know, actually,
Beast,
Eminem dropped a new album today, didn't he? So 8 Mile could have been very irrelevant.
Yeah, we could have talked about how Eminem's crap now. That would have been
How
great.
he's still calling people faggots in 2018.
Yeah, get with it. He's
Yeah.
the real faggot.
I guess.
Also, you know what I wanted to say is, okay, my plan when we did the 8 Mile thing for the cold intro, you would have loved this, Luke. I was gonna rap the entire opening verse to Eminem's song "I'm Back."
Well, I'm glad we didn't do that then.
In the second verse, he says the line, "I take 6 kids from Columbine, stand them in a line, add an AK-47, a revolver, a 9, a Mac 11, and that ought to solve a problem of mine, and that's a whole school of bullies shot up all in one time." And of course,
Does that speak to you?
that's quite an offensive thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was actually it's cut because you know how in the UK we don't believe in free speech.
Yes.
It just like even if no matter how you get it, even if you get it on a CD, you know any way you can purchase it legally in the UK, the line will be "I take from stand them in a line." They cut it crazy. They also cut the line.
And it's
There's
not-
a 4-year-old little boy laying dead with a slit throat in your living room, and they cut the line. Oh, I'm gonna look this up. You're a 20. Hang on. Okay, they cut the line. Oh, it's not going to let me. So basically, there was an Eminem line in where he's talking about his mum, and he mentions her attorney by name, and I can't remember. I feel like it's attorney, but it's spelled attorney, so I want to pronounce it that way. Yeah, he mentions her by name. He's like, attorney is a faggot, and they cut out his name. So there we go.
Yeah.
We hate free speech.
Yeah,
You can't just randomly call somebody a faggot in your song.
yeah, it's weird that they cut the Columbine thing out, considering it didn't even happen in this country.
Yeah, well, you know,
Yeah, but thank God.
that's just how liberal snowflakey we are.
Thank God for the Sadiq Khan balloon, by the way, that's coming up.
Yes.
So at least thanks to that, maybe free speech can come back to the UK.
Yeah, I mean, that's what matters most of all. The important thing is we can just insult people.
Yeah. So that would be 8 Mile. Yeah. Like we said before, we're doing Predator next week. And I think it's time to say goodbye. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for joining us while we've been selecting and reflecting on Coming to America. And again, join us next week for Predator. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Right.